Round 2 odds, we will have a preview of Game 1 of the NBA Finals between Philadelphia and Boston, and previews of each Round 2 series. From me, Grandmaster Handicapper Joe Duffy of OffshoreInsiders.com, brought to you by MyBookie.ag. You get the biggest sign-up bonus if you use the promo code Duffy, D-U-F-F-Y. The NHL playoffs are here. You've got great odds there on the NHL playoffs. Do not bet the NHL playoffs, the Kentucky Derby, well, don't bet anything, unless you check the odds at mybookie.ag first. Even if you have an established sports book, I always tell my clients, shop around for the best lines. Yes, you've got the best picks in the world, but still, you never want to get screwed by a line move again. I always shop around. I've got about a half dozen sports books that I use. They're all listed at OffshoreInsiders.com, including MyBookie.ag, where they have a massive sign-up bonus if you use the promo code Duffy, D-U-F-F-Y. Here are the latest odds to win the NBA championship. The Golden State Warriors are, not surprisingly, the favorites at plus 110. It looks like Steph Curry is going to come back. Houston Rockets at plus 160. Philadelphia 650. Toronto 900. Cleveland is plus 1,000. They're at 10-1. Again, these odds are based on $100 per bet. And Utah, Boston, and New Orleans given very little chance. Somewhat of an anomaly. Toronto is the favorites to win the East, although they're behind Philadelphia to win the NBA championship. Two reasons for that. It's based on the amount of money that came in, but can the Sixers, are they a team more equipped to win on the road? Toronto actually finished with a better record than Golden State, but if they wind up playing Houston, it doesn't matter. Toronto, like the Sixers, would wind up playing on the road. I also think there's kind of a little bit of thought that the 76ers, more than any team in the NBA, in fact, in recent memory, each series they win, the more dangerous they become. They're, of course, a very young team with Embiid and Simmons, but every single time they win, the scarier they become. So Philadelphia going into the NBA Finals, even if right now you say Toronto is kind of the better team, at least the more proven team, no, I think if the 76ers manage to get to the NBA Finals, they all of a sudden would become more proven than Toronto would be, because the Sixers' upside is indisputable. Over in the East, over in the West, pretty much as expected, Golden State the favorites over Houston. I do agree with that, with Steph Curry likely back. In fact, they should be more prohibitive favorites in my humble opinion. We're going to take a look at each of the second round matchups. There you are, the series odds. Let's start out with Philadelphia at Boston. Philadelphia, despite being the road team, having only 3 home games, they are a prohibitive 450 favorite. The latest Celtics injury, though, Jaylen Brown. Yeah, add Jaylen Brown to the long line of Celtics injury. Started out with Hayward at the beginning of the year. Then, of course, get their key point guard they got from Cleveland. Winds up getting hurt as well. Now Jaylen Brown is hurt. So Philadelphia, the prohibitive favorite. Biggest surprise, when I was doing my research, was quite surprised to learn that, at least according to advanced analytics, that Al Horford matches up as well as just about any center does against Joel Embiid. I'm frankly not buying it. This is where I go beyond the advanced analytics and look at the eye test. I've watched Horford for years. I've watched the NBA for years. Horford's one of these guys, you get physical with him, you can pound him, you can wear him down, you can intimidate him. He's not a physical player. I don't see how he matches up well. Don't see how Boston in any way can stop Embiid. Look, Embiid's right now, he really is the best center in the league. I'm not so sure anyone can stop him per se, but Boston less equipped than most teams. I think Embiid is going to score at will. Also, I like to use the scientific method when it comes to my handicapping. No, I definitely use the scientific method when it comes to my handicapping. And I go with a theory and then try to disprove it. Well, my theory has always been correct, and I was already aware of this from previous research, but ran it again through the up-to-the-minute statistics, through all last year's playoff statistics as well. The more rested team, it's always a benefit. There's always a debate. Do you want to be sharp? Do you want to be more rested? I challenge you, look, if you can find, if you've got one of the computer computer that I use for my different angles, feel free to email me through the site offshoreinsiders.com if you can find any legitimate reason to tell me why it's better to be quote-unquote sharp than rested in the NBA playoffs. I do think that Philadelphia should win this in 4 or 5, but one of the more intriguing matchups in that, look, if Boston can win a game at home, and I guess, it sounds almost oxymoronic to say steal a game at home, but yeah, if the Celtics can get up, the Sixers are a young team. They haven't played from behind. They only lost one game against Miami, and yeah, Miami regained the home court advantage or gained the home court advantage by splitting in Philadelphia, but they never led in the series. So Boston does get the first 2 games at home. If Boston wins those 2 games, as much as I agree with the old saying, the series doesn't begin until the road team wins a game. Look, I think it's much more important for this series for one of the teams to get out early, because if Boston, all of a sudden gets the Sixers from behind, they become very live underdogs. Of course, there will be an adjusted line, but Philadelphia logically should win in 4 or 5, but we will see what happens once the 76ers get punched in the mouth, which hasn't actually happened yet, but still, all in all, and we don't know exactly when Jaylen Brown's going to come back. He will miss game 1, but Boston just doesn't have the offense, and as I said, I also don't see how they're going to stop Philadelphia. Toronto and Cleveland. Toronto is -190 to win this series. This is one of those where I made the parallel. I think it's very similar to the Pittsburgh Penguins-Washington Capitals series in the NHL, where you could make an argument that the Capitals should be the favorite on paper, but the Capitals have a long history of losing in the NHL playoffs. The Penguins have a long history of winning. Well, here, the same thing. More so LeBron James than the Cleveland Cavaliers, per se, but LeBron James is on the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Cavaliers do have a championship under their belt with him. The Cavaliers and LeBron James in particular, long history. We know LeBron James, a long history of winning in the NBA playoffs, especially the Eastern Conference playoffs. Toronto has come up short. Yeah, they did win a series this year. They won a series last year, so maybe they've gotten over the hump. And even LeBron James himself, Michael Jordan, these are guys who actually had to take their lumps in the playoffs before they finally did get over that hump, and maybe that's what has finally happened with Toronto, with their great 1-2 punch themselves. Toronto possibly has gotten over the hump. Still think Cleveland is a live underdog here, because Cleveland's one of those teams that I think is built much better for the postseason than they are the regular season. I love teams that got those veterans that are going to play 5, 6, 7 extra minutes during the postseason than they will during the playoffs. LeBron James, yeah, he may not necessarily win any more regular season MVPs, but I think LeBron James is more than capable of getting a couple more postseason MVPs. Kevin Love, yeah, of course he's past his prime, but still, Kevin Love, a guy who can play some extra minutes in the playoffs. Tristan Thompson, we know he's a box of chocolates, but you think with the NBA playoffs, with him having a chance to play a big role, maybe he'll get a little more motivated, maybe he'll get a little more focused. J.R. Smith, Kyle Korver, at this point in their career, sure, they're not quote-unquote elite players, but they are also more cumulative. They have several veterans who, for reasons I said, will be more valuable in the postseason than during the regular season. They can play 3, 4, 5 extra minutes. Plus, the Cavaliers are the one team. Greg Popovich certainly is the guy who invented the theory, and I said this team should be doing this for years. I was ahead of Greg Popovich, of course, from my couch, but Cleveland is really a team that didn't have the sense of urgency of the other teams. Yeah, they would have preferred to be a 3 seed, 2 seed, 1 seed, but they didn't really need to be. They could pace themselves during the regular season, turn it up a notch in the postseason. I do agree, Cleveland went deep against Indiana. Maybe a better team, a good team, should have really knocked off Indiana much earlier, a true legitimate contender. Still think the Cavaliers more than capable of turning it up a notch. They're built for the playoffs more so than the regular season. I like the Cavaliers to pull off the upset here. Again, I don't like to do series bets because I do not want it to in any way really blind my ability to make the game-by-game adjustments. As I say, it's quite possible, even though I do like Cleveland to win the series, maybe they go 7 games and I could actually lay the points. I could have Toronto as a favorite. It's not because I'm contradicting myself. It's because I always give myself the flexibility to make the game-by-game adjustments. So this is a pick, not a bet. I don't like to bet series bets for those reasons I keep saying over and over, but still very much a prediction. I do believe the Cavs get the upset here. Don't outsmart yourselves with the Pelicans and the Warriors. Of course, the Warriors, they are the best team in the NBA. And that's another anomaly. The Rockets are the biggest favorite in the second round over the Jazz, even though Golden State is the favorite to win the NBA championships and New Orleans is the biggest long shot. But, you know, in the case of Golden State, look, will Steph Curry, how many games is he going to play? And even though he is expected to come back on Tuesday, he might not be 100%. And yes, there is a long history when a team is playing well, so more so in the NBA. When an NBA team is playing well without one of their star players and he comes back, there is often a 1 step back before you take those 2 steps forward, 3 steps forward. In the case of Steph Curry, he's like a 4 steps, 5 steps forward type guy. So I kind of, understand the logic there. And yeah, New Orleans is a team that has some of the factors I like. They've got Anthony Davis. You know my Adrian Barbeau theory. You need to be top heavy. I really think that to pull an upset, they would have to have a great 1-2 punch. Maybe, I think Oklahoma City would be much better built to pull off an upset here, but Oklahoma City's not here. So the Pelicans do have the requisite superstar, but I really like more of a 1-2 punch. And the Pelicans do have, one of the secondary things I like with Rajon Rondo and Drew Holiday. They do have those veterans who can play some extra minutes. We already saw Rondo turn it up a notch in the postseason. So yeah, I do think Rajon Rondo is much more valuable in the postseason than he is during the regular season. Still, don't outsmart the room. The Warriors should be the overwhelming favorites here. The Jazz and the Rockets, I think the Jazz are slightly better equipped for pulling off the upset for a couple reasons. Still, the Rockets really got to prove that they're going to do in the postseason. James Harden in the past has shown that when the chips are down, he's not quite the leader that the Warriors, have 2 of, even 3 of. Harden can get a little lax on defense, and the most dangerous teams are teams with a big upside. The Jazz certainly have that with Donovan Mitchell, a spectacular rookie. Rightfully so. In Philadelphia, Ben Simmons has gotten a lot more of the publicity. But Donovan Mitchell, this guy is real. And yes, Simmons has gotten the publicity since high school, so it was enough. Donovan Mitchell, this guy's fantastic. And there's also this angle. 30 years old for the Jazz. He's really established himself as somebody who's kind of, some of those guys who play in Europe are some of those European players where they make a little bit of a slow adjustment, but he's really developed into a force. So I really think the Jazz have a better chance of pulling off an upset than the Pelicans do. I'm not going to call for the upset. I'm not going to be too crazy, but I do think the Jazz are more likely to extend this to maybe 6 games. But if you're asking me of the 2 real long shots, yeah, Utah is the better of the long shots, especially considering it's at a better price. And as I said, brought to you by MyBookie.ag with the promo code of Duffy, 50% sign-up bonus. Well, this is your Monday report, so why don't we take a look at the Monday ATS trends? That's what you guys have loved since the Score Phone days, Philadelphia and Boston. Road team is 8-3 in the series, and the underdog is 6-2. Philadelphia, 10-2, following a straight-up win of more than 10 points. 65-30 when their opponent scored 100 points or more their previous game. 47-23 following a spread win. Boston 6-0 at home versus a team with a winning road record. 20-7 following a straight-up double-digit win. 47-22 after scoring 100 points or more their previous game. And 45-22 when their opponent scored 100 points or more in their previous contest. Some of the over-under trends. Boston has gone over 8-1 following a double-digit victory. 76ers, though, have gone under 13-5 versus teams with a winning home record. And Joe Duffy's picks, 57-18 in basketball, 403 and 309 with 48-plus juice winners since August the 27th. NBA Wise Guy, NHL Wise Guy at OffshoreInsiders.com, the industry standard. Free pick. Go against good teams off of a win, 216 plus 216.45 units. Again, we tell all sides of the story. This is not a premium play for tonight because the last 2 years it's kind of leveled off. Still, when you're that many games on the plus side, we've seen systems more than bounce back. Good enough to be a free pick, Kansas City and Hamill, plus the 220 against Boston and Rodriguez. And again, you want a sportsbook that will pay you on time, mybookie.ag, promo code Duffy, instant sign-up bonus. Instant sign-up bonus using the bonus code, the promo code Duffy, Duffy.